We're back. We're kicking off. This is going to be number one on Beyond the Basics to Building a Business. And Joe, you had a thing you were just telling me about Einstein. You got to identify the problem before you can deal with it, or something like that.
Yeah. No, what I was saying is that you can't solve the problem you created with the same thought process that you created the problem. So that's why you need some coaching and mentorship from people who already solved that problem, because, when you're in the trenches, you can't see what's going on with the war.
Yeah, and that's exactly the reason why I'm doing the whole Wydell Academy, is for the next generation of leaders that are coming up and they don't have anybody to go to. I didn't have a lot of people. I had a few, and made millions of mistakes along the way. And when you learn the mistakes, you can hear insights from people who've kind of been down the road. They can save you some time. And every time they can basically tell you where the landmines are, where you don't get blown up, and they can show you how to. There's no way of getting around all the work, but you can. There's no reason you have to duplicate all the failures and all the flawed ideas, So getting beyond the basics to a big business, I would say the first thing I would say is you got to change your vision. And would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. You have to.
And I would say the thing is you don't realize it, though, because this thing, you go from day to day to day to day to day, and the vast mass of people never master the basics because they never work, and then they work, and they're not consistent. They stop and start. Like as I was telling you, I've been 3 years sick, haven't been able to play any golf or anything, and finally getting better. Went out there playing golf yesterday, so just mad at myself because you know to do things and you don't do it, but you got to work your way back into shape. And even pros, if they've been off for 2 weeks, it'll take, Tiger Woods at his peak said if he didn't play for 2 weeks, the first day back on the course, he played like a 20 handicapper. He was shooting 20 over par. And it took even NBA players, if they're out there, they miss it for a injured and they're out for 2 or 3 games, you can see that they're rusty. So when you're in the middle of that fight, you're focusing on the basics, on the way up. And what you're doing is you're thinking, like we did in the intro, you're thinking the Rambo stage, the do-it-yourself stage. How can I be my best? You think everything in terms of, as soon as a problem comes up, I got to do it. How can I do it? How can I solve the problem for it? Let me have it. And the trouble with that is that what happens is the job gets done, job done. But you haven't made any progress. You're not going to get off the ground because no one is trained. You're going to be doing it in the future. But you don't really realize that, or you don't have time. And what you reach the point where you are right now is like, I got to get some new thinking in my head. I got to get a new vision. But when you're at this stage, you're totally focused on the people that are excellent doing this, because you want to get as good as them. But then you have to kind of get some different role models. So it's change your vision. You want to get different role models. And pictures. I'll never forget, being in Acapulco. We had, in 1985, we're coming back and waiting for the buses to take us to the airport. And Mike Sharp had got to the stage where he'd got a big bay shop, and he was kind of like where you are right now, Joe. And he said he was walking around like in a trance. He was like muttering to himself. We're just sitting there waiting, and I think Hector was sitting next to me and all of these guys. And Mike is wandering around muttering to himself because he's like a fighter getting ready to go back into the ring, like a football player huddling up, getting ready to run up and start it back again. And he's muttering around. He said, he's talking to himself, and he said, what I do, he said, I go around all day long, and I have this picture in my mind of what I want it, how I want it to turn out, how I want my organization to turn out, how many people, what kind of people, how many offices, where these offices are. And then all day long, every day, I work towards making that picture that's in my mind become a reality. And when I heard that, I interrupted him. I snapped him back to consciousness, and I said, that's it, Mike. I said, that's exactly what I do. And we had a laugh about it. But you're going to think about different role models, different stages. It starts with pictures in your mind. And once you start getting the idea of having a basic operation, like if it's in financial services, it's, real estate or whatever, you got your local office. But it's how to expand now from that one office, the one Rambo, state-of-the-art, award-winning, blue chip, got the ribbon, go to the fair, get a ribbon, unbelievable, you're a good boy, Rambo won the archery contest type thing, to where now you can produce, you can spin off, you can take that knowledge and you can teach it to other people. See, this is what the first step is you got to teach it to people who cannot do it. Just do it with you there. That's not duplicating yourself. That's getting an assistant. What you want to do is get people who can do it on their own. You want to develop independent leaders, people who are motivated in the same way you are. They want to do special things with their life. They want independent. I can't emphasize the independent thing. They've got a hunger. See, Joe, you are doomed. We all are doomed if we waste our time with people who don't have a hunger. They don't have a desire. Because like when you and I started the business, I think we were equally pathetic at all stages of sales. Because I didn't do this. Never in my life was I in sales. However, we knew that's where the money was. We knew that's where the independent was. We knew once we got those skills, we could find something to market the rest of our lives. And we looked around and we saw the people doing it. We said, they ain't that incredibly special. So we had a hunger. So when you have the hunger, it drives you from inside. What you're looking for is people with internal motivation. And it's kind of like this. If you want to go out, you have this goal and say, I want to do something big. I want to build this huge organization. Well, you got to have ingredients. That's like if you're a cook and you might be, you have this gourmet meal that you want to prepare. Well, you got to have first-class ingredients. That's the point. The first thing is you've got to have the correct ingredients. If you don't have the correct ingredients, you're dead. And you got to learn where they are. You got to take the time to go to the store to get it. In fact, there's a thing about this little sushi chef out that has the best sushi in the world from LA. They had a TV special on the guy. And so particular, he's like a Rambo of the sushi world. But every day, the main part of his day is he goes down to the market and he knows all the guys who get off the boat, and he has all the guys who are out there every day trolling in the boats, looking for stuff, knowing he's going to get there earlier than anybody else. He's been going there so many years. They pull off the cream of what they catch, and they get it to him, and he goes out every single morning to get it. And he made a big thing. You got to start with the right ingredients. Now, in the people world, the only way you're going to get the right people is what? You've got to recruit them.
Yep.
And you've got to recruit quantity to get quality. If you don't have, now I know you know this, Joe, I'm just kind of getting the basics down. If you recruit out of every 100 players that you recruit, do you want to get on your basketball team and recruit for these amateur things? You're going to have one kid that's going to be the best. One who will be the best out of 100. Now, if you recruit one, you're going to have one that's the best out of one. Who do you think is going to be better? I think the guy who's best out of 100 is probably going to be a lot better than the best out of one. But some people never going to be able to do this, Joe. They'll say, okay, quantity, recruit, quality, and they'll blow right by this, and then they'll work like dogs around the clock with the wrong guy. They're trying to turn this poor kid, who's one of the greatest spazzes of town. Of course, he looks good with his family because nobody else has ever handled a basketball. But Get him out there with kids who can play basketball, and he's a dog. But, you're working with him where you believe you can do it, and he's, patting him on the head. Hey, it ain't going nowhere. So you got to pay them. This is what you've done well. Joe, you got a stable of studs in there. You got right people. And now, and you're through this stage, but it's important for those listening behind us to realize just because you listen to this doesn't mean you're going to be able to go back with that handful of people you've got and do what Joe Tanzi's going to be able to do, because the people he works with, he might have recruited in his operation 1,000 people last year. His best and brightest is going to be best out of 1,000. And so the more you can do, you don't have to ever recruit 1,000, but just realize it starts with the ingredients. Because if you make put somebody through a system, develop them into a fully trained independent leader, and they're a dud, that means you just have a highly unmotivated, low potential, trained independent guy out there probably never going to do nothing. And so you've wasted your time. You're living in a dream world. So you get the right people. But then you've got to train these people different. And this is where we're getting into what you're interested. Right. This is the thing, is how do you go beyond being Rambo yourself and now start creating people and maybe producing a few Rambos, but getting people who can build teams themselves. What we're talking about is going beyond being yourself to where you have a team. Just like and don't have a coronary, folks. This is not a multi-level marketing, network marketing type thing. This is organizational chart. This is Cub Scout leader, Cub Scouts. This is head cheerleader and cheerleaders. You can't have a cheerleading squad with one cheerleader. And so what you want to do is, the first step is to make sure that the skill they've got, Joe, that they have confidence in, is the skill to break through this little barrier here. They've got to be able to break through the barrier of just learning how to be good themselves and doing the basics, to where they can build a squad. Right from the beginning, they need to be sold on the fact that they're entering a training program. So what I would say, first thing I would say to you, is you got to make sure from your orientation, from your first introduction to the business, when you let them know what you're recruiting them to, what they're being brought on board to get involved in, is not to be strictly a sales thing, but a sales manager thing, to build teams where they can have, here you make income one way. Here you can make income, even at this level, three ways. You can make money selling. See, this guy can make money if he sells. Well, he can make that, but he also can make money training people to sell. See, this is very different. These two very different things. So somebody comes in and goes through this sales training thing thinking that's all I'm ever going to be, Joe, is not going to be getting as much out of the training you give him as the guy who thinks, I got to learn this down, get this down as quickly as possible because I got to train other guys. So how can I best say this to somebody else? They'll pay more attention if they know they've got to teach it to somebody, that they're being trained to teach it to somebody else. You know, I'm not just a student in a classroom. I'm a student in a classroom getting ready to quickly become the guy at the front of the room teaching this to other people. It causes them to pay more attention. And so you can make money doing that. You know, you make money in sales here, but here you can make money training other people. And then the thing is, once they do get trained, they are out training other people, you make money overriding. So it's a higher calling, it's another level, but it's a much more lucrative potential operation than just here, because here you're limited to the 24 hours in the day. See, this one will always be limited. This one is unlimited. And if we can't get the basic building block in their mind from the beginning, that concept, the difference, get them thinking and seeing this is where they're headed right from the beginning, this is where they're be training for, you're going to be fighting against that, even if you get the good kind of, the right person with the potential, because they're going to have the wrong, like when we said on the other page, starts off with a different vision. You got to change, well, not only you got to change your vision, you got to change the vision that's in everybody else's mind as well. That's our first step. And now let's go look at the next one.